muting our audio sources. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is episode 2 of the De4dboy Lounge. Tim.
That's me.
Sick boy. Paul. That's me.
Yeah.
Second episode. We're still here.
Oh, 2. This is poop.
This is poop.
Number 2.
Culture.
It's a poop culture.
How's everybody doing? Thank you all for joining us here for the second episode. We're super stoked to be bringing this one to you, and we actually put a lot of work into this one, so kind of reason why we're getting off to a late start. But with that in mind, we're just going to go ahead and jump into some news. And I think for the first story, do you want to go ahead and read off the story from The Independent?
So this is a VHS tapes Bad Hair and the Spectacular Rise and Fall of J-Horror Remake. Basically talking about like all the Japanese horror remakes that we went through in like the 2000s, I believe, like The Ring, The Grudge, stuff like that. A pale-faced girl in a long dress with very bad hair crawls like a crab out of a television, or alternatively down the stairs. She is soggy, sounds like she has a bad throat, and there's sometimes a well or a water tower, a cat sounds, creepy photographs, and often a bit of archaic technology. Talking about like VHS tapes, old cell phones.
Like the old Motorola's, like the big ass fucking cement blocks that they came.
Japanese horror movies at the turn of the millennium, dubbed J-horror, endlessly cycled through a dozen or so of the same tropes. They were always slight differences here and there, swapping the terror of a cursed home for the terror of a cursed telephone, for example, but the tropes were consistent. They were also endlessly remade for Western audiences, anchored by American stars like Sarah Michelle Gellar. We couldn't think of her name earlier. Kristen Bell. Sarah Michelle Gellar and Kristen Bell. U.S. remakes of J-horror staples came to dominate the horror genre in the mid-noughties until they suddenly didn't. Plummeting box office and new horror trends may have sounded like a genre's death, but much like scraggly-haired Samara insisting on climbing out of that well, The Ring, Western J-horror remake, just won't stay dead. This month marks the release of The Grudge, a reimagining of the Gellar version, which was a dumpster fire. Like, it was bad.
I mean,
and I'm so sad about that too, because Sam Raimi's such a fucking horror staple.
Evil Dead, like you can't say Sam
Spider-Man.
Raimi. Yeah, I mean, and
okay, my bad.
All right, yeah,
you didn't think Spider-Man was a horror movie? Oh, never mind. Itself an English language remake of the 2002 Japanese film, which, by the way, if you didn't know, The Ring and The Grudge are remakes of Japanese horror films. Some of our audience may not be as well versed as me. But compared to its U.S. predecessor, a surprise smash in the 2004, this one has tanked. In effect, its lack of success speaks to how far the subgenre has fallen in the year since The Ring's Naomi Watts throwing a haunted VHS tape across the room. So basically, the article's talking about like the decline of Japanese horror remakes, and like what killed them isn't necessarily like saturation, because there really wasn't a ton of them.
Right.
What killed them is like trends just moving in different directions. How we went from what was like creepy movement and kids, I guess, scaring us, went to torture porn.
Yeah. Enter the Saw films.
Yes. And then it talks about Sarah Michelle Gellar's roles in like Grudge, Dark Water, Pulse, One Missed Call, like all these, or no, not her roles. I'm sorry. They're talking about all these like Japanese horror remakes: Grudge, Dark Water, Pulse, One Missed Call, stuff like that. One Missed Call, actually, super good, underrated movie. We might cover that one day.
Hey.
Shudder, which is actually a Japanese remake.
I never saw that. I'll have to go watch that one.
The Tale of Two Sisters. I never saw that one. but like you didn't like it wasn't like a huge saturation because a lot of them were not like what do you say a major movie? It's not AAA because that's video games, but
Right. Just like a major motion picture.
yeah, like
Yeah.
it wasn't like top
It
tier.
wasn't a feature film.
A feature film actually has a different
Oh, is it?
definition, I think, but yeah. Anyway,
Here I am hosting a
um,
freaking movie podcast.
yeah, I'm right there with you.
All right.
Um, so like the big thing with Japanese horror is The Grudge and The Ring still super popular over there. Still scaring the shit out of people.
Is that right?
Yeah. So much that they literally they did a movie where they cross like that episode of Family Guy and The Simpsons. You know, they didn't sit there like the
Like
Samara and the
Like
fucking
a
Grudge
like a
Golden.
overlapping of the universes.
Yes. The Ring and The Grudge had they met and they fought.
What?
Yeah, like Godzilla and King Kong.
I had no idea about any of that. That's fucking spectacular. I have to go see this now.
I've never watched it, but like I think it's gonna be a dumpster fire. Like
It's gotta be so bad. It's gotta
like
be.
just talking about it, I'm like, man, that's gonna be like watching two old people fight.
I mean, like she's
Like, you
just gonna
wanna
be
see
like
it, but it's
stuttering
gonna be
around like the
sad.
walls and stuff, making those weird throaty noises, and possibly like
Yeah.
leap down onto her from the ceiling. Like I don't know. I mean, obviously we're speculating. I haven't seen the film. I don't know if you've actually seen the film yet or not, but
I've seen previews. That's about. Do you want to bring up a preview of it?
呪いのビデオは90年代の終わりに現れた代表的な都市伝説だ。その謎のビデオを見ると貞子という幽霊から電話がかかってきて、お前は2日後に死ぬと告げられる。
見てみようか。あそこ入ったら呪われて死んじゃう家なの。あの家絶対近寄っちゃダメだよ。
貞子を見たのか？
ここにいるのはかや子。この人家に呼ばれてる。
ちょっと。私の呪いとあなたの呪いをぶつけ、私たちが生き残る道を。それしかないの。
so that actually raises a question for me. Is it missed? Is the J horror genre and like as its own type of subgenre, is it missed here in the United States? Do you think we need to
Like-
still bring maybe some of those movies over here, or do we just kind of need to let them do their own thing?
See, man, I feel like this stuff moves in like waves. Like
I can agree
right
with that.
now, like what's a good horror movie? God, I can't even think of anything because of this fucking COVID shit. We are in an era where horror movies are kind of like
But
like
kinda
Halloween is kind of a big deal. So maybe we're moving more towards like slashers.
Maybe because it seemed like for a while the big draw was supernatural thrillers like exorcisms, hauntings, things of that nature, like with the Emily Rose.
Exorcism, Emily Rose,
yeah.
The Last Exorcism. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it seemed like there was a huge wave of those movies coming around, and then now, I don't know. I mean, maybe we are starting to regress back into more of a slasher wave. Because if I remember right, there was also this weird point in time where we were making, I say we, but they were making horror movies based around real life events, particularly social media.
fucking Unfriended or whatever.
Unfriended, and there was like a few more that kind of followed that theme. I don't think either of them were very well received.
You know what? I'll double down right now. I think it's actually we were in an era of like subgenres.
Yeah,
I don't keep doing this. What the fuck is it? We were like it was realist, it was realism, and it was supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
Like you wanted something to start out super realistic and understandable, and then flip that shit on its head.
We have our first Facebook comment on our first edition with the Facebook stream. Megan E. Burns is actually an old friend of mine. Thank you for coming into the show, Megan. She says, now you have grandpas putting poopy diapers in kids' faces. Still horrifying, but a different scary.
Damn,
What
Megan.
kind of movies are you watching? God damn.
The Visit. I do remember that, actually.
Of course you do.
Yeah, I think it was like a time of subgenres just mixing together. But I truly believe we're going to come back to like a more classic. We're going to come back to like a classic time with like slashers and just like more self-contained stories.
Ah, yeah. Okay. I see that.
I think the Halloween's really going to kick it off.
The Visit. Yep, that was the movie he just mentioned. I hope you're right. I'm gonna say that. I hope you're right because, like, for me, going back, like when I first really started falling in love with the genre, it was zombie movies, and then that led into a love of like slasher flicks. And said Gym Leader JC back in the day. That's right, motherfucker. So that's for me something that I would love to see more of a resurgence of, and we're actually going to get into a particular film that's going to be coming out here in the recent months as we progress through this episode. So you may be right. You may actually be onto something.
I'm just gonna let you know what's making me think that. Friday the 13th just came out of like legal litigation. So
Really?
a new movie might be on the horizon. Plus, they're talking like oh my god, the movie maker who just died. He did Nightmare. Why can't I think of his name?
I don't know, man.
Bro, we're such professional fucking podcasters. I can't think of his name. But his name, it's normally the guy who did Wes Craven. Wes fucking Craven. Wes fucking Craven. Okay. So
wow, how did that slip?
So Wes Craven, his family, they own all the rights to like everything. And his family is willing to give anyone who will write a good story the rights to make before you walk through the rights to make like a new Nightmare on Elm Street or a new Scream movie.
Oh yeah, that's right. He was the
can see
main
there.
brain behind Scream, and I think a few other modern horror movies too, besides some of the remakes from some of his other stuff. But you know,
Yeah.
Wes Craven. If we can just gush on this man for one quick second.
R.I.P. in heaven, big boy.
Hell yeah, dude, for sure. With once in a while, I think once in like every maybe generation, there comes around a mind like his that's able to arguably define a genre.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Wes Craven is, in my personal opinion, he created the slasher genre. Like, he is the guy that made it to what we understand now, if that makes sense.
I think that Wes Craven was a revolutionary
For sure. Much in the
with
same way
horror
as
movies.
Romero.
Yeah. I think he looked at everything that was going on in horror movies and he was like, fuck that. I want to make something different and I want to make something that people are going to talk about, which is why Nightmare on Elm Street is talked about so differently than Friday the 13th or Halloween or fucking, God, I can't think of anything else. Chucky.
Yeah, or any of those. I mean, it's the only other, well, I'm not even going to get into other movies that
We're
are
going
similar,
to start
but
gushing really bad.
yeah. when you talk about
fucking love
something
Wes
that when you're talking about someone that can kill you in your fucking dreams, how do you
have
fight?
to
Like,
sleep.
yeah, you have to sleep. Like how do you fight against something like? And they made it work, but I mean, it's like it makes you have to think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like,
I think it's more though than just Friday the 13th, and then I feel like we need to walk away from this because
sure,
I think we're on a tangent.
Yeah.
It's more than just Friday the 13th. It's also Scream.
yeah,
Scream, I think, came out at a time when like everyone was like, another one of these fucking movies,
right.
you know, like, and like a bunch of movies came out like trying to imitate Scream. So like he's a revolutionary, and there will never be anyone else like him.
There won't be another one ever again. Maybe someone that has like a similar type of revolutionary mind. Maybe they're able to redefine how we look at horror, slashers. I mean, whatever, insert subgenre here. But yeah, I'd have to agree with you. There's probably not ever going to be another Wes Craven like mind in the film industry ever again. So rest in peace, big guy. Thank you for all the cool movies. And with that, we're going to go ahead and move into our second story, which is a very brief one. And it appeals to the child in all of us. There's a company called Horror Decor. They're a company that makes decorative soaps and other types of like home decor type products. They have their own line of soap collection that they've expanded on in midst of the COVID-19 crisis that we all find ourselves in. People are very adamant about clean hands, washing our hands, and keeping sanitary conditions. So they're trying to capitalize on that. What was that?
Hashtag wash your hands.
Hashtag wash your hand. Let's see. In addition to hand-making protective masks they've been donating to essential workers in Rhode Island, they've also expanded their soap collection to help horror fans keep safe. The company is currently offering the following horror-themed soaps. Ecto Cooler. We all remember the classic high C drink from back in the day around the Ghostbusters movies. A citrus scent reminiscent of your favorite childhood beverage. The Stuff, which actually does not sound familiar to me, so if anyone recognizes that.
You've never seen The Stuff?
I haven't seen The Stuff.
Oh, put that on the fucking list.
All right, putting it on the fucking list. Gosh.
Okay.
I just put myself in a hole. Sweet scent reminiscent of ice cream, if that makes sense. Okay. This one was my favorite, and it had me fucking on the ground. Buffalo Bill's Lotion. A clover and aloe lotion inspired scent. And the others are Ghastly Goo, Dr. Lecter's Chianti, Stay Puffed Marshmallows, and Sanderson Sisters' Life Potion. A witchy mix of vanilla, mahogany woods, musk, lemon, apple, cinnamon, and everything else you could possibly find in a hex bag, probably. So I'll be looking into those for sure. I like, the kid in me is just like screaming for that Ecto Cooler soap for sure.
Do you know? Okay, so there's one of them in the background, and it gets kind of like skipped over, I think. And it's the Ghastly Goo.
The
it's
what?
Fine.
Goo?
The Ghastly Goo.
Oh yeah.
That's a reference to an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Is it really? Oh shit. Dude, that's pretty badass.
So fucking happy, dude.
That's so fucking cool. Hell yeah. I can't believe I totally skimmed over that. Shit.
I mean,
right.
I figure everyone will.
Well, look down in the description in the show notes when this hits post, and click that link if you want to go get yourself some soap. We're not affiliated with the company in any way, but we're fans of those movies and just, trying to share the love, man.
Yep. Hashtag this is not sponsored.
This is not sponsored content.
Raid Shadow Legends.
Okay, moving on. All right, so we're going to get into our movie for the night. And for this episode, we're covering a movie called The Collector. Came out in 2009. This movie goes desperate to repay his debt to his ex-wife, which is actually a misnomer. The wife herself is in debt to a loan shark, and her husband, an ex-con, plots a heist at his new employer's county home, unaware that a second criminal has also targeted the property and rigged it with a series of deadly traps. Yes, Windswept Feline, this is a fantastic movie. I had not actually seen it until studying for this episode, and yeah, I fell in love. Protagonist, Arkin, played by Josh Stewart, who has kind of a storied resume himself. He's been in stuff like The Neighbor, The Hunted. He was in an episode of the Punisher TV series, or actually several episodes, so a long-standing resume for that guy, and a fantastic actor. I thought he was great in this movie. And
hell yeah.
Our antagonist, the Collector, played by Juan Fernandez, which, when we were preparing for this episode, we discovered that Juan Fernandez is actually the hardest working actor in Hollywood that you've never even heard of. This guy has been actively working in movies as far back as 1972.
It's so impressive. The guy's got to be pushing 70 right now.
At least.
And he's got 6 movies in pre-production.
Yeah. We're
What
not
do
going
you
to
have
name them
going
all,
on
but
right
there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movies in post-production, one that is now in pre-production, and one that is not mentioned, but I hope he's still in it, which we're going to cover later as we get through the segment. But fucking hell, this guy's been in so many movies. A lot of them have kind of a Hispanic tonal quality to the title, so I think a majority of them are foreign films. But aside from The Collector, he's done episodes of CSI Miami, the Lost City. He played he's just been in so much shit. He was actually in An Executive Decision. He was the London bomber.
Jesus.
So he's a character actor. I mean, he's not just done horror. I mean, he's done action, he's done drama, he's done TV series. God damn it, this guy has done so.
He was on a little
much.
show you might know called Walker, Texas Ranger.
And Walker, Texas Ranger, of course. That was an episode in 1995 where he played a character called Ernesto Espinoza. So a little trivia there for you there on our villain for this movie. And god damn, that's just an impressive resume. I'm still kind of floored by it.
We are truly befuddled.
Directed by Marcus Dunstan, written by Patrick Melton as well as Marcus Dunstan. So Mr. Dunstan really had some physical investment in this film.
Checked in. Dunstan checked in.
Dunstan. God damn.
I just want to say that dad joke was so on point. It was so on point.
Every 90s kid in the audience right now is just fucking pissing themselves.
I fucking know that.
Okay, I feel like, and I think we kind of agreed on this when we were putting together the notes for this episode. There's a certain element of subjective fear that comes from this film, and for me, the aspect of possibility adds a element of subjective fear to the viewer. What I mean by that is that anything in this movie that happens in this movie could have easily happened in real life at any given time.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna say, by the way, subjective fear is something that we're gonna bring up. We're gonna try bringing that up for all of our horror movies now as a way to better bring about a rating and stuff like that. Like, it's just a point that we're gonna start bringing up. For me, subjective fear is the transfer of control that happens in the movie. The father losing control so quick.
Yeah.
And like just being so powerless. Like that's kind of what like started getting me.
I mean, just as a parent, that can't help but affect you in a way. And we'll get into some of the finer points here as we're moving along, but there is an element to this film that if you're a parent, like it hits you in so many different ways that, I mean, it'll fuck with your head for sure. Let's just go ahead and jump into our take, our kind of brief review. You haven't watched it since it came out. It's worth a rewatch for sure, especially since there's, and then and it's on Amazon Prime. That's where we watched it, and it's also on Tubi.
Sub with Twitch Prime.
And sub with Twitch Prime. Thank you.
Sub with Twitch.
It's also on Tubi, so if you can't afford a Amazon Prime subscription right now, if you're out of work or whatever, it is a free, 100% free movie service. They have all kinds of shit on there, and they also have The Collector. I think they have the sequel. I can't be 100% certain because I didn't look for it, but definitely worth a rewatch.
Absolutely.
So going into just our brief review, for my take, it does take a bit to build up to like the scary parts of the film, but I also feel like it's absolutely necessary in order for the storytelling to make sense. Yes, there is a sequel, and we're going to get more into that as we move along, so just sit tight. It takes a bit to build up, but the antagonist, the bad guy, the collector, being unnamed and essentially unknown adds another level of mystery to the character as well as the movie, which works fantastic with this one particular scene, no spoilers, this one particular scene where Arkin and the collector are fighting in one of the many fight scenes they have in this film. And there is a part where he removes the mask on the collector, but you never see his face. In fact, you never see his face throughout the entire film. And then you just see like this wash come over Arkin where he's just like, holy fuck, I have seen this guy before.
If you've ever watched wrestling, it's like akin to when the guy like powers himself up and he's like
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
Yes. It's exactly that though.
Oh man.
Oh, very well described. Absolutely. Which
going.
if the Hogan, exactly, Gym Leader. Which if I was to actually describe this movie, and I'm so glad that you loved it so much when I put it in the Discord the other night. If you've never seen this film, you can go into it with an idea of, imagine if Kevin McAllister from Home Alone grew up to be Jigsaw. That's this film. And if that sounds amazing to you, go watch the fuck out of this movie.
As soon as we're done. As soon as we're done.
As soon as we're done. And in my personal opinion, they had some of the most clever methods of killing people since the original Saw films. Some of the traps in this movie, and we were talking about one just before we went live with the bear traps. This kid,
oh my god,
holy fuck, he has the best death in the entire movie. No spoilers. Do you want to describe it real quick?
Okay, so everyone walks up to the collector, or well, all the guys walk up to the collector and they're like,
Right.
"Ugh," like,
Yeah.
all like he pose for dominance. And this dude like, listen, I know like every fucking karate move, and I've got a knife, you ding dong. He walks up and he goes to punch him, knife through the fist,
Through the knuckles.
through the fist, like
he
in
punches
between the finger. Like
so bad.
and just immediately like I lose. He backs up, some body parts are cut off by an elaborate trap, and he gets kicked
Like straight
Oh.
Undertaker style, just like front kick to the chest, launched back.
steps in a bear trap. Listen, this whole room has bear traps.
All over like the floor. I think some of them are on the walls. Like he went ham on some fucking bear traps, man. Like for sure.
If you ever played Dead by Daylight, you understand.
Yeah.
He steps in a trap, and it's just like I described him like one of those tubes where you turn it and it's like
Yeah.
he's just like and he steps back and he catches another one, and then he does. Oh my god, the shot is so perfect. He falls back and lands in this room of bear traps, and they all just start.
The editing for that scene was so good because they single framed each individual trap closing on like the various body parts. Like one clamps on his leg, one clamps on his shoulder, one clamps on his chest, and then the killing blow, the one that is just it's just so fucked, that just clamps right down on his face. That
So
was
good.
just like a holy fuck moment for me for that movie for sure. Windswept says, wow, I never thought of it that way. and is now following the channel. Thank you so much for that follow. I appreciate you so much. I tested the alerts today. They worked fine, and now I can't hear
My
shit.
God.
God damn Stream Elements. Anyway, but thank you. Thank you so much for that support. Truly, we appreciate you very, very, very much. So, okay, good. Do you want to go ahead and give your take real quick before we leave the review part?
Yeah. So I think that the collection came out in a really unfortunate time. I feel like if it came out today, it would probably be a lot more popular than it is for when it came out.
Okay.
Being kind of like shadowed by a lot of torture porn. Like that was like the big thing when it came out, and it never went like as like disgusting. It's still super brutal,
Right.
like brutal. But you know,
Even
you
by
don't have
today's
to.
standards.
Yeah, but it's not. The Hills Have Eyes, and it's not as brutal as like some of the later Saw movies,
Right.
you know. But it's so well shot. Every camera angle is beautiful. I feel like the lighting, the cinematography. If this was the butthole, it's on point. I think that the story's really good too. Like it's very simple. It doesn't get in the way of itself, and you understand motives. I don't feel like I need to get into like a synopsis of it. I just want to say
Right.
like all these things that I enjoyed about it, like the good story, the great cinematography, the characters. These weren't characters where you're like, okay, I get it. I know who you are. Well,
Right.
there's one. There's one. There's one. Yeah, I just think that overall it's a really well-made movie, and it's kind of like a hidden gem.
A little bit, yeah, because like I said, I had never even known of the movie's existence until you suggested it for this episode. And I'm so glad you did, because it's quickly becoming one of my favorites. And just like the chandelier with all the knives on it, like that, the whole trap rig up. Like this guy, like the things that he put into this house had to have taken hours on hours to set up. And no one was the wiser. The dude's he's practically Batman.
Yeah. I think that the Collector is more realistic than Saw.
For sure.
I think that it's scarier than Saw.
In certain ways, yeah.
I love Saw, and I love what Saw does, and Saw like makes me do this a lot,
Right,
you know.
yeah.
But as I'm watching the Collector, I'm like, oh, like I do that. It's a whole different feeling. So that's my take on the movie, I guess.
Yeah, no, solid take, man. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, now I have to watch it again for sure. Yeah, and the sequel.
Yeah. And the sequel.
And the sequel.
The sequel.
Which
We'll have to talk about the sequel one day.
We'll talk about the sequel one day, and like I'm just to kind of build on what you were said. This is kind of our banter conversational part of the show. I'm going to be up all night. Well, you know, if you want to ever jump into a Discord server, and we're going to be setting up one here pretty soon where we're going to try and do movie nights with our fans and stuff. I know we're doing it right now with 3rd, but I don't know if that's something you want to make like a thing. But we are setting up a separate Discord channel server for this show, so we may incorporate it there as well.
I think we'll make the new Discord server. It'll be all about the movies that we're reviewing.
Yeah.
And if I do it my personal, I'd like to get into other movies as well, like comedy, action, stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Pokemon the animated movie, you know, like
classic. Absolutely.
It'll make you feel.
It'll make you feel, man, for sure. Yeah, for sure. So, but like, yeah, definitely go give that another watch. You won't regret it. God, there's just so much going on in this movie, and I don't even know where to begin most of the time without just reading notes. So, I love how you mentioned earlier about like that. There's that element where the dad just like completely loses control, and it's not even just related to the dad. Like the entire family is just completely blindsided.
Right. So early in the movie, though, the dad is like clearly showing a dominant role in this whole family.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's walking to work, or like, okay, it opens up with, with his house being renovated, and they're doing some bug spraying and stuff like that. And the dad's walking through and he's telling people like what to do, like checking up on him. He gives the guy a paycheck. And like he gives him a paycheck and he's like, I give you a little bit extra. And the guy's like, I did my job. I can't take extra. This isn't. And he's just like, you deserve it. Like slightly flexing on him.
Right. Like you need this more than I do.
Yeah. Like he's just gonna drive away like, yeah, well, I took a shit in your sink, so what
yeah.
You know?
One thing that I feel like hasn't been talked about enough is just how much of a fucking cunt his wife is. Because of the element, like as a parent, I understand struggling financially, trying to make ends meet, desperate attempts, desperate situations.
You're talking about
Arkin's
I thought
wife.
you were talking about
Not the mom. Not the mom. Arkin's wife.
Okay.
Yeah.
Arkin's
she's
wife.
a total cunt rag.
She sucks.
Shitty. Absolutely shitty person. Gets involved with loan sharks and just violent people altogether. You have a child, goddammit. Like, how does that not register in your thought process before making these types of decisions? And she just completely leaves him with no other options, basically saying, if this doesn't happen, I'm taking your kid and I'm leaving, like, tonight. I'm getting the fuck out of here. You will never see us again unless you fix my problem.
Yeah. And it's his responsibility.
Right. And then we never, like, I mean, essentially, you don't really get to discover what happens to them afterwards. Maybe that's led into the sequel. Have to cover that in another episode, so we can't get into that right now. But it does leave an element of what happened to these other sequentially, just not insignificant, but less significant characters than the ones we tend to focus on throughout the movie.
So here's one of my favorite parts about this movie. It's all about a power dynamic change.
Okay.
Harkin goes through it with his wife
Mm-hmm.
and his actual freedom, and that he has to this isn't a plot spoiler, but he has to go rob the people who he just earned like a legitimate income from.
Right. And they do allude to his criminal past, so that's not that's not spoiler territory.
So like that's a power dynamic change. He feels like he is in control of his own destiny, and then something happens and takes that control away from him. Same thing with the dad. The dad feels like he's in control of his own destiny. He's, making changes. He's supervising, and then suddenly he is begging for his life and begging for his family.
Yeah. And that's it's heartbreaking to watch, just because, like, I mean, we know what happens to the dad, and that's horrifying.
Just say he's not going to be in Rush Hour 3.
He's and then, of course, anytime a movie of this style starts to involve children, where they could possibly end up as a victim, and starts tugging on the heartstrings, and then that adds another element of, like, on the edge of your seat, like, get the fucking kid out of there.
Yeah.
Rush Hour is hilarious, absolutely. As another franchise that I think is just very no one saw coming. But yeah,
anytime I love
movies.
Anytime someone dies in a movie, I just always like to say, well, he's not going to be in Rush Hour 3, which is like it's such a weird reference, but it has to do with an outtake from Rush Hour 2, where Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker run up to each other because a guy fell out the window.
Yeah.
And they're both looking down, and Chris Tucker's like, he has some line to deliver, but he's like, well, he ain't going to be in Rush Hour 3. Super funny. Yeah. Sorry.
Director Marcus Dunstan was also a writer on this film. If you want to check out some of his other works that he's written, The Collector, The Collection, which is the sequel to The Collector, Feast, and oddly enough, I didn't know this, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which was released last year.
I actually really like that movie.
I haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet, but he was one of the main writers for that screenplay.
I don't know if I bought that or not. I watched it on something. I can't think. Anyway,
You torrent.
super good movie.
You pirated it.
No, I fucking didn't.
Fucking pirate. Okay, just really quick. I dug up before we move on into our next segment. I dug up some cool little like trivia on this movie, and I just kind of wanted to briefly go over just two main points that I found very fascinating. The writers for this movie intended it to be a Saw prequel, but the idea was declined. Like, it was completely shot down. Never even saw pre-production. Never even saw more than like maybe a teaser of a script before it got reworked into what it is now. Can you imagine though?
I've been super into that. I feel like Saw is so elaborate and confusing and fucking 9 movies long. There's 9 of them. God bless it, dude. And I don't even know it's canon anymore.
Does
And
anybody?
I've seen them all. I've seen them all. No idea what's canon.
Dude, they star. I mean, when you start to get that deep into a franchise, like, it's like
Started getting really cheesy. Yeah.
Yeah, they did. And when is enough?
Apparently somewhere around 3D.
Because I mean, we see a few other more leaning back into some of the classic titles, like from the 80s, like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, the Michael Myers Halloween movies, all have like numerous sequels.
Some of them that should never have been made.
Agreed. When we start taking a whole fucking kids camp out in the outer space, that we need to start drawing lines in the sand.
Yeah.
Another thing that I found on this movie, which I think you got really interested in this as well, was the urban legend aspect of this. Because apparently in different parts of the world, there is actually an urban legend surrounding a character of the Collector. The Collector urban legend is really a catch-all legend of creepy, hermetic neighbors that may be doing something horrifying inside their dungeon-like basements. The most common Collector legend is the neighbor who collects human body parts and proudly displays them in mason jars. In Russia, the Collector urban legend has a bright future because it played out in real life. Its new mascot is local Russian historian Anatoly Moskvin, who stole corpses from cemeteries in dozens of towns east of Moscow. According to police, he dug up at least 29 corpses and made dolls out of them, life-sized, faceless female dolls with platinum blonde wigs. What the fuck?
Fucking terrifying. But
again,
in
real life
America,
possibility as another aspect of fear.
In America, we have Dahmer.
Yeah.
We have Ed Gein.
Oh, wow. Yeah, good.
I literally
good
just thought about him.
Great example.
Ed Gein
for
literally
sure. The chair.
The decor of his home.
Yes.
Was people.
Was all people. Was all like that the recliner of his that's in that museum. Bro. Ew. Yeah, I know, right? Usually the first 2 or 3 are good. After that, they get shitty. That does tend to be like a running, I don't want to say rule, but it's like an unwritten rule among movies in general, and with very, very few exceptions. And as I often like to say, there are exceptions to every rule. But by and large, I think Windswept Feline here is exactly correct. The first 2 are normally spot on, and they start to kind of trail off after the 3rd. But for some reason, people keep spending money to go watch these films, so studios keep saying, all right, let's make another one.
Basically, it's why Disney's going to keep like remaking all their classic movies. It's why cash grabs happen, why Disney wanted to make, or not Disney, why Fox wants to keep the Fantastic Four. Get the fuck out of here, bro.
Why? You fucked it up 3 different times. No one liked what you did with those movies. Okay, with this. Anyway. I liked all the Fast and Furious movies, though. Again, exception to the rule. Absolutely.
Your exception. That is your exception. I'm not a fan of Fast
okay.
and Furious.
I like fun action movies. I have a kid who's really into like cars and shit, so it fits.
Right. I get
Fuck.
it.
Oh, you were obsessed
I was
with Paul
obsessed
Walker.
with Paul
Okay,
Walker.
I got you. I see where you're at.
He's not going to be in Rush Hour 3. I'm
He's not
sorry.
gonna- God damn it, man.
That was a fucked up joke. I'm sorry. Sorry.
The
Don't make
thoughts
me
and
cry. I'm
opinions
sorry.
presented by Third Extract do not necessarily represent those of the Dead Boy Lounge or SBL Productions.
Sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends.
Hashtag not sponsored. We're not trying to make you cry, Windswept. I promise. We're not gonna trying to make you cry. Okay, so I think that is a good stopping point for our main segment for the show. We're gonna jump into a new segment.
Wait. Can we give the movie a rating?
Ooh, can we give the movie a rating?
Can we get? Remember we talked about doing ratings?
We did, and we talked about how we would score it. What did we?
I think we set out a 5,
Okay,
and we would give it unique ratings.
right.
And I've kind of had mine prepared.
Well, give us your preparation, my friend.
So, I'm a big fan of this movie. I think that the timing of when it came out is the reason why it's a hidden gem and not really like on the forefront of sequelitis. So, I really rate it high. I rate it 4 flaming dogs flying out a trash can out of 5.
That's a unique rating.
Super relevant to the movie, though.
Oh, for sure. Okay, I'm gonna build off of that particular rating system. Mine's a little less prepared, but I agree with Third on the aspect of the timing of when it came out possibly led to it being undiscovered and relatively unknown. Hidden gem, like you said. Great acting. I feel like they nailed casting in terms of like who can portray these characters in a very believable way. The way Arkin really kind of goes out of his way to protect one of the characters in this film is very indicative of him as a father. So you really get that human aspect to that character, which is very, very important, I feel, for him specifically. So I feel like that was done very, very well. The setting, every place where the movie actually is set in, all the rooms of the house, everything is designed spectacularly. I was an instant fan of this movie, and I give it 4.5 flaming cats being shot through a window and then being cut in half. Aced.
Yes, very good.
Again, very relevant to what we're talking about.
I really feel like the only downside to this movie is that fucking older daughter, dude.
Yeah, she was kind of a thorn in like everyone's sides.
Like, she's the only character where you're like, okay, well, you're an archetype.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. We'll get into some more archetypes here in just a second. So I'm pretty happy with how our ratings just went. How about you?
Absolutely.
That was great. Okay, so we're gonna move on into our next segment. Like I was saying before, this is a new segment. If you were with us last episode, we did, I believe it was Why Does This Exist? Which was super fun. We were going to do that again in a future episode. But for this one, we are doing Defend the Failure. We found a movie that was not necessarily a box office failure, but a critically acclaimed failure. The people that tend to call themselves experts in the industry just like wanted nothing to do with it. They thought it was campy or they thought it was unoriginal, what have you. So for this particular episode, for the Defend the Failure segment, we went with 2009's, another 2009 flick, Friday the 13th. real quick before we start, what is your personal opinion on this movie?
Hey, I like it. I really like it. I had a ton of fun watching it. I'm sad that it didn't spawn off into sequels because I feel like that Jason would have been a great Jason to see again.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the stuff that I was actually reading up on when I was doing a little bit, I don't want to say research because the movie's been like out for fucking ever, but just some little things that I was able to dig up. The guy that played him, Derek Mears, who played Jason Voorhees, he was actually asked about how he approached the character, and he did so in a way of making him kind of like a woodsman survival type character, which is a total departure from the last, I think, previous films, the previous fucking 20 or however many fucking there are. He was very static in some of the previous films. Like, he was just that kind, like that brooding, towering hulk of a man that was just like, you knew was just going to snap your neck right in half.
Actually, what's funny is, real quick,
yeah.
In 2, he was a bumbling idiot.
Yeah.
Like, I think if you know Friday the 13th 2, he's wearing the sack over his head. He can barely see.
Right.
He's going after that girl, and he gets thrown into the fucking wall. Like, oh my god.
Which is kind of cool because they allude to that, and like there's a little bit of like a nod to those days where, like, at the beginning of this film, he's wearing the sack mask. So there's kind of like a nod to some of the classic films from director Marcus Nispel.
They get through 3 fucking movies in this one movie, basically.
Well, that's what really appealed to me about it. And one thing that I would like to defend about this movie is that it kept to the formula. When you're dealing with such a storied franchise like Friday the 13th, if you depart too much from the original formula, people don't fucking like. Look at Jason X. A total departure from the original formula. They tried to do something original and creative and whatever the fuck else these critics had to say about the movie, and fuck you, Rotten Tomatoes. That was just a total fucking shit show. So when you bring in a movie that starts to then again adhere to the original formula, revamp the character in a way that's not doing so obtrusively, and is letting the actor bring on a artistic expression to the character, is way more acceptable in my opinion.
Yeah.
Windswept says he has a legit backstory though. If I drowned at summer camp, I'd chop everyone up too when I came back to life. Very good point. And they did kind of put a spin on that in this movie. He didn't actually drown. He watched his mother get beheaded.
Yeah.
Like, that's how we enter the film.
Yeah, you see, like, there's black and white, and it's lightning, and she's like, "You let my son die," and this girl's like, "I don't know what you're fucking talking about." Like,
and again, already naked. Wait, which
Why
movie?
not?
The Friday the 13th, the one that we're talking, the 2009 version. So what we are defending in addition to all of this is Jason as the classic slasher character. What's your take on that?
So I don't like supernatural killers. I like Freddy, but like I said, Nightmare on Elm Street was always like presented in a different way.
Right.
I like Michael Myers in the first Halloween movie and the new sequel, the 2018, because he's not a supernatural force. He's a dude who's just evil as fuck.
Yeah. It's been warped and twisted through years of torment, abuse. I mean, God, the shit that Michael Myers saw as a kid would
Well,
fuck
no,
anybody
not the
up.
Rob Zombie. Not the Rob Zombie stuff.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
The 1979 or 78 release, and I like the 2018 sequel to that.
Okay.
Because he's not supernatural. He's a dude who just has something wrong with him.
Right.
Something unexplainable. But he's realistic in his movements. He's realistic in the damage he can take. and he's realistic in the damage he can distribute. Um, I like Jason and Jason too. Jesus Christ, professional. I like Jason in Friday the 13th 2, and I like Jason in Friday the 13th 3 up until he like takes all that damage at the end from Corey Feldman.
Yeah.
I like Scream. Huge fan of Scream.
Yeah.
Huge fan of Scream because they're realistic killers. They're still scary as fuck. Like that's what I like. I like realism.
Right. And there is a sense of real, again, there's that element of possibility with a lot of those films because of the realism there, because these are still, at the end of the day, they're still just human beings. Like you said, there's nothing supernatural about them. So there is an element there that makes the viewer believe there is even a 1% chance that this could possibly happen in real life.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
So I like this Jason. I like that he's a woodsman. I like that he had to figure out how to repair generators to, like to have lights. And I like that he had to figure out how to steal kerosene without, he couldn't kill the guy who owned the farm because the guy kept bringing kerosene. So, he had to figure out how to steal kerosene without being noticed. And like he knew when he needed to kill and he knew when he didn't need to kill.
Yeah. Oh, Windswept says, I agree with third on Michael Myers. And I'm that person who would be like, oh my God, that's not even possible while watching a movie. There's lots of movies like that, though, that create that element. Again, Jason X. There's that part where he's shoving the canoes off the boat rack and shit. So he's like, that's super fucking strong.
Yeah, you can tell he's a big boy.
Yeah, he's like fucking hulked. And you kind of have to be to live the way that he's living in that survival, like just, living off the land kind of way. And it's kind of the sense that they wanted to go from it, because he's been stuck in this camp for 20 plus years, knows nothing else. So he really did, he was forced to have to figure all that shit out. So for me, it made the character more believable.
Yeah, I just like that he's believable. I also kind of don't think he's the bad guy.
Oh, really? Let's get into that here in just a second. We're going to go over just some of the finer points. Like I said, directed by Marcus Nispel, written by Victor Miller, which is actually one of the original creators of the characters. Damian Shannon, and there's like 4 more writer credits. Stars Jared Padalecki, who we all know from the Supernatural series as Sam, and Amanda Rigetti and Derek Mears. Great casting, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Regardless of what you feel about the Supernatural series, I am a huge fan of the show. I've been watching it since like 2005 or 2006, whenever it first came out. Is like all I had to do at the time. So.
Bro, I found it on Netflix.
Oh, did you?
And I binged.
Dude, I watched that shit like what? I was watching it once a week on network TV. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Like I had like at that point in my life, I literally had nothing else to do. And yeah, became a huge fan. Amanda Rigetti, I believe she plays I was so prepared before. Yeah, she plays the sister, Whitney.
Yeah.
Now, this is where I think a lot of people started to feel a departure from the film because of the, I guess, hero aspect that Clay brought to it. He's looking for his sister who's been kidnapped by Jason because she resembles his mom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because like they have the locket with her picture in it. And it's like, dude, you look just like her. Her head's still on the wall of the old cabin house.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
And God, did you ever wish for a character to die more than Trent?
Oh man. Not that I can think of off the top of my head. He sucks.
You just wanted him to die from like the second you saw him.
I wanted him to die in a stupendous way.
Oh yeah. Well, he didn't go out in a very flat fashion either.
It's true. He got a great death.
He did get
But
a
I
pretty
just-
good death.
That line when him and old girl are in the bedroom and he's like, your tits are
It's stupendous.
stupendous.
Who fucking says that?
Your
And she
nipple
didn't
plates are
care.
Perfect.
She didn't get like turned off by that or anything. It's like, I want that dick.
She wanted to do you.
I agree. Thank you, Windswept. Yes, it saved me after my divorce. Oh yeah, Supernatural, amazing show. Absolutely, I'm totally sad to see it end. But hopefully we'll see those guys in more feature films. And I'm still begging for that Batman Flashpoint movie with fucking Jeffrey Dean Morgan playing Thomas Wayne Batman. I want it.
I can dig that.
I want it. I want it bad. We're talking about here. Aaron Yu played the part of Chewie, the lovable little Asian guy. And I was really sad to see him. Like, I knew it was coming just because it was a fucking Jason movie. But I was so sad to see him go. He was just such a lovable little guy. And just like, you just wanted to chill with the dude, Like, you just wanted to invite him over, bake him cookies, maybe smoke a blunt, and then, like, just hang out.
Exactly. What's up, Acid? How you doing?
Hey, Acid, how's it going? Thank you for joining us, man.
I really like Chewie. I really like I like the cast, except for Stupendous Tits. I
Stupendous
didn't care
Tits.
for her character.
He was just such a douche nozzle. What's good, Acid? How you
Yeah.
doing?
I feel like what the fuck was he? We just said his name. God damn it. Chewie, he got a really cool death. And I feel like that makes me feel good about him dying
Mm-hmm.
because like the scene where he died, pretty good.
It was
Made me
pretty good.
laugh.
He did die pretty slow though.
Yeah, but
Like he felt it.
it's
You know what I mean?
It's time, It's
Yeah,
on
he-
screen time.
He felt like every inch of One of my favorite deaths actually occurred just after that. Was when is it Lawrence? Yes. Okay. Character's name is Lawrence. And there's the scene where he goes out to try and like track down Chewie, ends up fighting with Jason, which if he had kind of positioned that last little jab with that fire poker, probably could have gotten away. Maybe. I'm speculating, but either way, it led into one of the most fantastic deaths throughout the movie because Jason turns out is an expert axe thrower.
Woodsman, man.
Woodsman. I mean,
He's like
just
one
like
flannel
straight
shirt away from fucking cutting down trees.
fucking over yeah, exactly. And just like straight over that. He had to have been what, like 20, 30 feet away? If
It's
not
an
more.
impressive throw.
Like that
It's
was
an
a mat and just like bam, dead center spine. Like he was down.
30 feet uphill.
Dude, yeah.
Damn.
Like that was some nice shooting, Tex. Like Acid says, I'm great, just come to hang out with you two sexy motherfuckers. Ha ha ha. Well, we're joined with all kinds of sexy motherfuckers up here in the chat.
Sexy motherfuckers.
Plus Windswept. Like that. Yeah, just right there. Plus you. That's right. So we're going into Jason as a slasher. We covered how he's more dynamic. We went into our favorite deaths and just how it was just really well written too, I think.
Yeah. So there's something you have to do when you make a Friday the 13th movie. Especially with like how maybe experimental remakes were at the time.
Right.
Because you had Rob Zombie's Halloween came out and it was super experimental and people were like, it was so divided on, oh, I love it and I hate it, and then everyone on the love it kind of moved over to the I
and I
hate
feel
it.
like a lot of the people that loved it just love Rob Zombie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm sorry, I just want to do that
For
voice.
sizzle. Yeah.
So I think they wanted to do some fan service with this movie in the way that they brought characters in. Like there's still tropes, there's still archetypes. You know, everyone is. You're like, these are all clearly kids in like their second, third year of college.
Maybe like they're
Because they all talk about dorms.
early 20s. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're talking between the ages of Chewie looks like he's maybe around 18, 19, and Trent could easily be 22, 23 maybe. Like so I mean, there's a range of ages there. But yeah.
So they're all partiers, and the thing is, Jason hates party kids.
Because the counselors were all party kids.
Mm-hmm. So you have to bring that in. Jason has to hate party kids, has to hate counselors, and has to hate anyone who invades in on his fucking property.
That, and there's still that lingering unanswered question of, is he still acting on his mother's orders? So you remember when she initially gets beheaded at the beginning of the movie, her head like speaks to him. It's like, you have to make them, or you have to punish them. You have to punish them what they did to mother. Is he still running off of that? Or has his point of view evolved over the 20 years that he's been stuck in Crystal Lake, digging tunnels and rebuilding generators and doing God's know what else, fucking just making himself survive and eating fucking raccoons and shit?
I don't know, man. Like, because okay, so Clay is knocking on doors in the movie, and he goes up to that lady's house, and scary dog, jump scare. But she's like, people just need to leave him alone. Like,
Yeah,
she's
that's
directly
right.
talking about Jason.
For sure. Like, she's seen him out there. She probably seen him kill like how many people, and it's just like, just leave him alone, and you won't die.
I think that Jason just doesn't want people in his woods.
You could very well be right.
So if his motives have changed or evolved, they've come to just like, I own this. This is mine. No one could ever take it away from me, because everything he ever loved was taken away from him.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of it that way. Windswept says, I'd say it's a mix. Acid says he is still running off of his mother's desires. Imagine being the one to see that and survive it. His Crystal Lake. Ooh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to agree with the mix sentimentality. I do. I kind of feel like it is a blend of the two things. Building, I think one built off of the other. I think he evolved that thought process of like, this is my camp, this is my territory. No one's gonna come in here and fuck with my shit because mother told me to punish everybody that fucking, you know, like they kind of blend together quite harmoniously.
I mean, like, they talk about him being like mentally delayed.
Right. But I think a lot of that was just because they were asshole kids who saw a deformity and related that to a sense of retardation or something.
So my thing is, like, if he's actually mentally delayed, so he sees his mom die and he's like 11, but maybe he's got like the mind of an 8 or 9-year-old or 6-year-old, you know, whatever. And he has no one to set him right. He has no one to guide him. His mentality just grows into a gigantic 8-year-old, 9-year-old.
Yeah.
Even if he isn't delayed, an 11-year-old, 11-year-olds are dickheads, dude. Like,
well, you're not wrong.
kids can be assholes, and if you take that child mentality of, no, this is mine,
Yeah. No, that's a
and
good
you
point.
evolve it from a kid who just loses everything.
Right. Yeah, and
And he's
I
the big
gotta
son of a bitch.
imagine as a child losing a parent is probably going to be one of the more severe traumatic experiences that you could, one of many severe traumatic experiences that a child could go through, and he had to go through it. Acid even says, well, because they let him drown, he has vengeance in his heart. Another good point. He could just be going on a 20-year fucking revenge binge, and just it's not satiated. And he is a big son of a bitch. God damn it, yes he is. This dude,
he a big boy.
he's a big boy. He's a thick boy. I mean, towards the end of the movie, they're trying to hang him, and he just breaks the solid wood rafters.
Yeah, dude, that's so fucking nuts.
Like, just from his sheer weight alone, like, he's that massive.
That boy got some girth.
Yeah, and that is, again, sticking to the formula, because he's always been perceived as, like, this hulking figure as he approaches adulthood and shit. So, I mean, I like that they stuck with it. I love that they built on top of it, because I feel like him being that huge hulking stature, this very intimidating presence, either came from or assisted him into successfully surviving in that environment.
I would instantly pull a self-defense move and play dead. Bro, but that girl under the dock, she tried to hide.
Okay.
And he was just like,
Thunk.
and then like, get girl boobies. And
all right, drop her. Good, cut.
Oh,
Like, that scene
man.
right there had fan service written all over it.
Hell yeah, dude.
If you don't know what we're talking about, there's a scene in the movie where he shoots another kid in the back of the head with a very well placed crossbow shot, by the way. So he's
No, it was
also
an
turned
arrow.
into
Oh,
it's a
just
bow and arrow.
Yeah.
So he's turned into a marksman, possibly even a hunter, building on the survivalist character. Great shot, another great death. Runs over that girl's head with the boat, like just whack.
Just takes it too.
And she takes all of it. Like, doesn't try to like dive or like swim out of the way when you see that he's not moving. Like, nothing. No self-awareness or a sense
No sense of self-preservation.
at all. Shit myself and play dead. He learned some shit from Satan waiting to come back.
So
Jason Goes to Hell was actually pretty good.
Okay. So I have this thought about Jason as a survivalist. All of his survival skills seem like they're based around stuff you would learn at a camp.
Fascinating. Okay. Yeah.
So all the lights in the tunnels, they look
Yeah.
like the hanging lights that are in the camp when they do the canoe.
Right.
He learns axe throwing, which that's something you like when you do marksmanship in like a summer camp. You can do axe throwing. You can do
Archery.
archery. Yeah, like these are all things that you can learn at a camp. So like he's had this camp to himself for 20 fucking years.
Mhm.
So he just like
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like peels back the fold of skin that's hanging over his eye.
he just moves a sack over. And he's a master
I
archer.
like that. Good shit, Trick. Acid complimenting your point there. And yeah, that's actually a really good point. I hadn't considered that. And then again, building on that survivalist thing, because he knows nothing else but Camp Crystal Lake. Literally, that the world does not exist outside of Camp Crystal Lake for Jason Voorhees. So I mean, it makes sense that he would take all of those things that he learned while he was when the camp was still running. Like, he probably got a baseline education in a lot of those things and then just taught himself the rest. So I like that.
He had
That's
tons of time to prepare.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude. So much time. I think the only thing that really bugged me is that they legitimately killed him. Right? Like, the machete through the heart. There's the gears that are like just running over the top of his head, like shredding up his fucking skull and shit.
I want you to think about the last 5 minutes of the movie.
Okay.
So they're on the dock.
Uh-huh.
They push him in.
Right.
They kick the mask.
Right.
They drop the locket. What happens next?
before he jumps out?
He's not dead. He's not dead.
So then, can Jason die?
I think he can, but I think he's also smart enough. And like Acid literally just said, I would play dead.
That thing went through his heart, though, man.
It went through his chest. And like what a lot of people don't understand is...
I may be speculating that it went through his heart. Fuck, man. I don't know. I think,
Your
okay, you
heart
may be onto
isn't
something.
Right here, it's closer to the center.
Yeah, you're right. Fuck. You don't think he was dead either? Well, shit. All right. Maybe I was wrong.
What if that old lady takes care of him? Like,
Well,
there's so many avenues you could go down to make sure he survives this.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Damn. Hadn't thought about that either. But if you're
I'm
interested
speculating.
in more of director Marcus Nispel's work, he's also responsible for the 2003 remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Pathfinder from 2007, which I believe is actually based off the tabletop game,
Yeah.
and Conan the Barbarian, and was second unit director for National Treasure. Go figure. Nope.
Huh.
Not gonna see that.
Didn't see that coming at all.
Windswept. Nope. Not gonna see that. And apparently this guy has like a storied history in music videos.
A lot of directors will get their start in music videos
He's
and
done
commercials.
He's done videos for Faith No More, Bryan Adams, Cher, Puff Daddy, Elton John. Okay, yeah, now we're getting to some obscure shit. So like the dude's done a lot. Talented guy. Definitely made this movie stand out amongst the other ones, in my opinion. Great deaths, great writing, decent casting. Was it perfect? Nah, probably not. But I think for what they were trying to do, for what the movie was, I mean, what did they expect them to do? Honestly, like, it's a Friday the 13th film. How much more can that envelope be pushed? They tried that and it didn't go so great.
I think that if they would have done a little bit less fan service with this movie,
Mm-hmm.
it would have been a lot better.
Yeah.
But then again, I could be wrong because I feel like the Nightmare on Elm Street movie didn't do a lot of fan service, and it's a huge critical failure.
Oh, the one that had what's his name from Watchmen playing Freddy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really dug that one too. I'm a huge fan of that. I can't remember his fucking name, but seeing him in Watchmen and Friday and Nightmare on Elm Street remake, I thought he's a fantastic actor.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But they didn't do as much fan service in that movie. Also, that one has Chewie as well, if you didn't know.
I did not know. Actually,
Yeah, he's in
No
that
shit.
movie, bro.
What the fuck? All right, Chewie, just dying in all kinds of movies.
He's when she looks up the internet video, the guy who's like, I can't sleep. When I sleep, that's when he gets me. And then like the video glitches and he's asleep, and then the video glitches again. And he's like,
Was that the scene in the van?
No, when she's in the library.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Windswept says, nope, I hated it. Asha says, I like that too. I like the dark take on it. I think they did a great job sticking to some original cheesiness. You can't use a different actor for Freddy, Windswept says. And I'll agree with you, but I also want to feel like, as proud as Robert Englund is of that part of his acting career, and like he still talks very positively about those experiences, I imagine he wanted to venture into other projects. You know, if I'm sure they approached him about it, and I think he was involved in like an executive producer aspect in some way, maybe. But I think a lot of other fans do feel that way. You can't use a different Freddy. With Jason and Michael Myers, you can get away with it a little bit because of the masks.
1 second.
Okay. He's over
Robert
here like shit
Englund.
grinning, like he found something.
Robert Englund has a role in a movie. I'm trying to think of what the movie is. I'm so sorry.
No, you're
But
good.
it's anecdotal and it makes me laugh. And his character was so fucking funny in this movie. Dude, he's been in so much stuff.
Hey, my dude, what's up? Leader Chip coming in from the Mixer front. Thank you for joining us here tonight. He's done what now?
He's been in so much stuff.
Yeah, I think he's actually done like a lot of cameos and stuff. He's like super old now, isn't he? Yeah, he's actually pretty. He's actually hosting. I think he's hosting a show on the Sci-Fi Channel now.
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I've never really been into that.
Well, I mean, who watches cable anymore?
Am I right, boys? Dude, I can't find it on his IMDb. I'm so mad.
Wasn't he also
Would
in
I find it?
Strangeland?
I don't know.
The old D. Snyder movie from like
Yes, he
1998.
is. I literally just saw it in his credits.
Yeah, I forget which character he played in that. That was another underrated film, I think. D. Snyder taking a venture into horror movie making was I had fun with it. I think it was a fun one.
Okay, well, I'm going to describe a movie, and if you can think of it, put it in the credits or in the comments wherever you see this or hear it.
Go for it.
Robert Englund was in a movie about a kid named Gunther who has to take up a paper route and refuses to read the fine details given to him by the previous paper boy on how to successfully route the people he has to deliver papers to.
What? That sounds so obscure.
I remember watching it on Disney.
On Disney?
The Paper Brigade.
What? What the fuck is the Paper Brigade?
Gunther Wheeler, 14, a tough guy from New York City, moves to a small town called Pleasant Valley. Gunther isn't making very many friends in his new town until he meets Allison Robbins, a beautiful blonde girl his age, the girl of his dreams. Gunther is anxious to score on Allison.
Of course he is. I can't believe that's in the synopsis.
By taking her out on a date. When Chad, Luke, and Wiley, a couple of neighborhood bullies, give Gunther a chance to see Screamin' Banshees, an awesome band, but the tickets for the concert are $150. Gunther doesn't have that kind of money, so the only way for him to get the money is to work as a paper boy with Charlie, Gus, Henry, Fish, which are known as the Nerd Herd. He plays a character. He's actually on the. Okay.
Well, while you're doing that, I'm going to catch up with chat here. Going back up, Acid said, "You know what was good one? What was a good one was Wes Craven's New Nightmare. That movie was dope. I only saw it a couple of times, so I don't remember a whole lot from that movie. But I don't remember hating it. If that makes sense.
I thought it was a really creative take on the Freddy ethos.
Yeah.
Or mythos, you know?
Right.
I posted a link in the Discord if you want to.
He played the guy that got strung up by the fish hooks. Yes, that's right. That was his cameo in Strangeland. During I think it was in like a bondage club, or was it like in his little dungeon or something? He had a bunch of weird ass shit. And another movie that took a page out of the social media chat room, like the dark side of the internet, so to speak.
If you can find it anywhere, watch it.
I kind of feel like he was just like at a point in his acting career, he's like, yeah, I really got to do something different. I got to expand the resume a little bit.
He played a crazy war veteran.
Well, that's not a terribly far departure. So I feel like we gave Friday the 13th a pretty sound defense in terms of critically.
I think we explained why choices were made, or like
Mhm.
our interpretation of choices that were made. Like you have to do fan service. That's why there was just a lot of nudity.
Right.
That's why there was, the character archetypes. You had to see these characters, and we kind of gave some reasoning as to why Jason would want to kill him.
Yeah, that too. And they also put a little bit of a twist as to how the hockey mask comes into play.
Yeah,
Like instead
I
of
really
just
like
him
that.
having it, like there was an area, or there was a part where he actually discovered it and just went with it. So I thought that was pretty cool, and it added a slight human element to him. Like there was that element of discovery and like almost kind of redefining himself in a way.
Hmm.
So yeah, I totally dug that. I also was able to dig up some fun facts on Friday the 13th. Some of it we discussed earlier, and I think you even crunched some numbers on it, which after I read these off, if you want to explain that a little bit. The film had the biggest opening weekend of any movie in the franchise, taking in $42.2 million. The film's large opening was the highest of any horror remake, beating out The Grudge, which took in $39.1 million in 2004.
So if we look at the numbers of Friday the 13th movie, their opening weekend, there I found a website called The Numbers, and they'll give you all of like the budget, production. Imagine if I tried to talk for a living. They'll give you the production budget, the opening weekend numbers, the domestic box office, and the worldwide box office. So if we look at 2009, they had a budget of $17 million. Not like that's kind of low, like compared to nowadays, I think.
Yeah,
They had
definitely by
an
Michael Bay
opening.
standards.
By the way, Michael Bay produced this. I don't know if we actually.
We haven't touched on that yet, but you know what's funny? Let me bring the tab back up.
Okay.
Because I think they actually make you have to go to like the extended credits to even discover that he was even involved in this film. Yeah, you have to scroll all the way down in the full credits list to get to the producers. He is the first producer listed there. So there's that, but so
Okay.
yeah, continue.
So 2009 Friday the 13th, $17 million production budget, $40 million opening weekend, $65 million domestic box office, $92 million worldwide. So all in all, not a what were we originally going to call this? Not a box office failure.
Right.
That is for sure. Made its money 5 times over.
Oh yeah.
But if we're gonna get into some staggering numbers in a second, if you look at the original Friday the 13th, it had a $550,000 budget, which if we inflate that is about $18 million. So on par for the same budget.
Yeah, just about. With like maybe $1 million or so difference.
Yeah, give or take $1 million. A small loan of $1 million. It had an opening weekend of $5 million. God
damn.
$5.8 million. So if we look at that, oh no, never mind. I've started this wrong. If we look at $550,000 from 1980 when the movie came out, it's roughly a budget of $1.7 million. If we plug in $5,800,000, which is like not even the exact total, but that's how we get $18 million for their opening weekend. And then I'll just go to their domestic, which was $65 million in 1980. That's not adjusted for inflation, which is fucking obscene. $203 million.
God damn it. So the
Fucking
numbers that are
nuts.
given by IMDb are not adjusted, obviously. Because if we include the adjustment, that's clearly not the biggest opening weekend of the franchise.
Right.
So, fuck.
So
that's
we
a
can
lot of
see
money.
that the original Friday the 13th, which actually was a slow start
Right.
because it only opened in select theaters and then just started opening up worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Cisco and Ebert like gave it a poor rating. I'm not sure if
Yeah,
they gave
because
this
they
one
were
a poor
like at
rating
that
or if they
time
gave
they were the
Halloween.
figureheads in terms of film criticism.
Yeah.
So I mean, if they rated something bad, it tended to do badly.
Yeah. Yeah, I just you have to admit that the numbers from the original movie compared to the 2009 remake are staggeringly
Oh, for
low.
sure. Yeah.
So it's not a box office failure, but it's just shadowed by the original so hard.
And I think it's done so in a lot of ways. I mean, those movies created their following for a damn good reason. And I mean, you can say this about any fandom, about movies, video games, comics, what have you. The people that really like devote their entire being into a fandom are hardly ever easily swayed in the other direction, or even just to make them lean a little bit the other way. Like, they're always very steadfast in their opinions. So if they think something sucks, they're gonna run with it. And I think that's what carried over from the remake into why a lot of people gave it bad reviews. And this is when like blogging and things are really starting to become popular. So that kind of also starts to filter in with it as well. So you get people that are essentially know-it-alls that maybe have had some experience in the film industry, but by and large, I feel like I can safely assume that they don't. They're just heavily opinionated, and for some reason, people like to hear what they have to say, and it's not always right. But and sometimes they do hit the nail on the head. So it's give or take.
Real quick, we don't like Rotten Tomatoes, but I like to look. I like to look at Rotten Tomatoes just for like the difference between a critic's rating
Sure.
and the audience rating. The tomato meter gives it a 26%,
God damn.
and the fans give it a 46.
Well, it's a little bit better.
It's almost double.
Yeah.
That's quite a disparage right there.
I just feel like they're so biased.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. But I do like using, like you said, I like when you use it as a comparison, as like a side view. So yeah.
Anyway, the moral of the story is fuck movie critics, dude.
Go watch what you fucking want, man. If you like it, you like it. Don't let anybody else convince you otherwise.
And if you like it, defend that shit.
Defend that shit. Take it on the podcast. A couple of more quick little tidbits before we start closing out this episode. The character of Sheriff Brack, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, played by Richard Burgi, is named after author Peter Brack, who wrote the book Crystal Lake Memories. Producer Michael Bay actually walked out of the movie premiere stating that the film had too much sex and not enough robots. I added that last part. Sorry, guys. That didn't say anything about robots. But no, he actually did walk out of the film because he thought it had too much sex in it. Did he not know what he was a producer. He was there when they were making it. Like, how did you not know?
He got dailies too.
Yeah. Like, how did you not? No. Fuck you, man. Like, no. You don't get a pass on that. I'm sorry. Fucker. God damn. Entitled producers. Anyway.
Granted, he is one of the like highest grossing producers of all time.
And directors. Yeah. Like, he's I'm just giving the guy shit, but
fuck him though.
Fuck him though. Fuck him, fuck his mom, fuck his dad.
Dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow, dishonor on your family.
Oh man. Well, look, this was a super fun episode, and I feel like we really got into some points that are overlooked in terms of some of these movies, but you know, it's just fun to talk about films, man. I just have such a good time doing it. I think this was a very well done episode. Is there anything that you would like to say to everybody before we close out?
Fuck Michael Bay.
Windswept Feline agrees, and Coke Never Pepsi's become a sicko. Thank you for following the channel. Hope you enjoyed the podcast tonight. I hardly have anything as deep or meaningful to say as Third Trick did just now. So I will say thank you everybody for joining us here tonight. We appreciate every single last one of you. Third's a beanbag chair. Dead Memes Boy coming in at the last second again.
All right. Irrelevant opinions. All right.
Yeah, before we completely close out, just make sure you're following us on Twitter and Instagram. Both of those accounts are fully active, and they will have updates and announcements for all the episodes. So until then, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here tonight, and we will see you all next week. Stay dead.
Bro, he booby traps his yard so that when Gunther has to deliver papers, he home alones him basically.
Sounds about right.
Anyway.
Okay.
I'm sorry
Moving on.
I'm sorry for derailing.
No. That was fucking amazing, actually.
Put that at the end of the YouTube video right there.
There we go.
Paper Brigade.